Hey, everybody. I have such a good friend here. We were fortunate enough to hear his positive mindset tips in the beginning of the year, and I've brought him back. Henry G., my good friend, please introduce your amazing self to the audience.
Well, thank you for having me on again. I really love coming on the show because it's such a positive environment. And I am part of the positive movement. I have the podcast, the Positive Mindset podcast. And, I'm just someone that's out here trying to share perspective. Nothing I would say is always fact. It's always about perspective to help people get in that positive energy, whatever that is to them. So that's what I do. And I'm excited to spend a few moments with you all today.
Thank you so much, Henry. So, and for those of you um, who don't know Henry's podcast, I just go and check it out. His episodes are short and sweet, but pack a big punch because they're so great and they have you feeling amazing. It's the Positive Mindset podcast, and I will have a link in the show notes. He's had tremendous success with it for all the reasons why we know. So, Henry, I had you come in the beginning of the year to help us kind of set our mindset and setting goals for the year. And now we're halfway through the year. So I brought you back with that intention, Henry, to say, okay, what kinds of things should we think about to help us get through the rest of the year? It's summertime now. We're resetting our minds and our bodies. But what types of things would you suggest for us, Henry, if you have a few at the top of your mind? I would love to hear them.
Absolutely. So the one that comes to mind, just with the way you're talking about that, is the reflection opportunity. So reflection is always great, but we are in that kind of midpoint summer, middle of the year time, and we have a chance to look forward to the end of the year. So whether you've accomplished what you set out to accomplish so far, or maybe you're not there yet, I think finding a time to reflect on what you've done well and maybe not so much on what you've achieved well. So a lot of times we celebrate our completions of things or our successes of things, but we're not those things. Like, we are the activity. That's what we live in, is our general activity state. And so it might be a good time to reflect on, did I follow through on the actions that I wanted to do? Not necessarily to achieve it, because sometimes we achieve goals and we didn't do what we set out to do to achieve it. And then sometimes we fail on goals, but we did what we said we would set out to do as far as the how. And I think that's a big measure for success. People that achieve a lot, they generally do what they set out to do, like the actions, consistently over a long period of time, versus people that are just selling themselves the goal.
Yeah, I love that consistency, right? It's just keeping at it. And then also embracing where you are and celebrating that. How do you feel about that, right? Because we need to just give ourselves the grace. So maybe we didn't reach that 10,000-foot goal, but we're halfway there.
I think this is a mindset one. So
Okay.
I think you should always be accepting of your situation. I think it's okay to forgive yourself, when you didn't follow through with the things that you said you want to do, versus the opposite of like getting that negative self-talk where you're like, I didn't do this, I can't do that. Like, you want to stay out of that. But I also think it's fair to be stern with yourself in a sense of like, okay, well, I'm drawing the line for now. Like, I've all year, it's been 6 months, 7 months, and I kept saying I was going to start my diet, or I was going to go back to school, or I was going to start this online course, and I kept putting it off. So is that who I am? And am I okay with that? Or am I going to draw that line in the sand and change my actions and be the person that does keep promise to myself? So you got to have that conversation, because we are who, like, our actions. And so we should
Yeah.
be honest with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes back to honesty with ourselves and where we are for sure. Um, Aside from listening to your podcast, what other things perhaps would you recommend that we do on a daily basis? Is it resetting? Is it meditation? Like, what is it that you think? What I'm going to just put it in your hands. What do you
Yeah.
recommend?
So there's a lot. I think the one thing that, if I believe everybody was better at this, including myself, this is something that if we all work to grow upon, and that's using like gratitude as a funnel of
Mm,
thoughts. So
mm,
I used to think of gratitude as just like this word, like people would say, "Oh, be in gratitude. You should have gratitude." And it's like, okay, well, that just means you should be thankful for things, and that's not the way I understand it anymore. I think of it more as like gratitude as a way of thinking. So
Mm,
that means you're perceiving everything with your highest energy or your love. It doesn't mean you're like, if somebody tripped you and you fell down and spilt your food that you're having on your plate, like you should be, oh, I'm so glad that they tripped me. It's
right.
it's not that, but it's being able to look at that situation as a whole and then finding light within it and then expanding that. Because what we focus on expands. And I think we would all agree that the future, like tomorrow and the year after, needs a lot of good in it because we're surrounded by a lot of extreme intensities of different opinions and anger and things like that. And so, if people just processed with gratitude, it doesn't mean we would just, be all pacifists and be thankful. It just means we would find the light in dark situations. We'd understand the entirety of the dark, but we'd fail to find that light. And that's like what our anchors become. And
Mm,
we're create like that's all we do is create. Now, if we just focus on what is in front of us, then we're just going to create what's more in front of us. If we focus on, what we view to come, then that's what's going to come and stuff. But like that's the one thing that's for sure that I've learned over the past couple of years in doing this podcast and talking to people, researching is we all create equally. It's just what we create is, what we decide.
mm. I love that so much because what we create is what we focus on, right? And that's what we're
Yeah.
attracting. And so many great points there, the gratitude into what we focus on. Another thing you mentioned that I'd like to touch on, perhaps that we need help with, is how to manage these distractions of bad opinions, bad energy, or negative energy. How do we shake that off?
Um, I think so that's a good question because I've met a lot of people that are, you would say like they're happy go lucky. So they don't have necessarily that, they're not carrying that weight. And then I've met people that are the opposite of that. They're very negative, they're down, their energies are low. That's like who I usually end up working with is people who are trying to shift. And in their
Mm,
mind, they're trying to become the happy go lucky person. Like, oh, I wish I didn't have those things. But I've never had anybody go from like just this negative person to the happy go lucky person. What we are is we're actually of that. And your highest self is both of that. Your higher self is never less. Like the best version of you is never less of something. It's just better perspective. And so I don't know if
mm,
it's about shaking it off. It's about just being bigger than it. And so, yeah, it's there. I understand it, but I understand the entirety of it. I understand what that person was going through that said that mean thing. I understand, and that doesn't mean what they did was right. It just, I understand it. I have the highest perspective of all situations. And then so you're not just happy by default and you're not negative by default. You're whatever energy you decide to be because you perceive all. And so I think that's kind of the something I've been trying to go in is, I was probably more the happy go lucky person through my life. And I realized through perspective, that's a limited understanding of experience. And
mm.
so now I'm doing a lot of things that are difficult and painful and not fun to do. So that way I could be in that negative energy where I'm doing something like I started running a lot and I don't like running. So I'm running for, 30 minutes or an hour. And the
Right.
whole time I want to stop. And so it's like pushing myself to understand like you need to be okay when things aren't your way and stuff. So that would be my goal or my suggestion is try not to just make that stuff disappear. Try to fully understand it to where it just doesn't affect you.
I love that so much, right? Embracing it, right? And not running away from it. Like you said, just shifting that perspective. That is just such a brilliant answer. And you guys, for those of you listening, I did not preface any of these questions to Henry. I mean, he's just naturally so great at just bringing us to that point of understanding. And I just love that so much. So, so we have some things to think about. We have some things to work through. And the daily practice would be just recognizing all of this, right? So if we have
Hmm.
some goals that we're really upset that we're just not even close about, but we really like kind of like what you mentioned in your example about running, right? So you're like, I don't like doing it, and I understand that I have to. Unpack that just a little bit more for me, because if you don't like doing it, like, what do you tell yourself to keep doing it?
So I think it's gone through stages. So
Mm,
initially, it's, well, I want to be in shape. Like, it was a me service thing. It's like, I want to be shape and I want to be more mentally tough. So I need to do this for me. So it was like a me, me, me. Like, if I get off, I'm quitting on me. If I stop, then I'm not going to hit my fitness goal. So it was very self-serving. And um, as I started thinking larger about it, I was like, everything that I do, and this relates to the podcast, because the podcast was something that reaches people beyond me. So essentially, in my regular life, I influence people that I maybe would work with or would be friends with or school with. It's a small circle of influence of people that like if you do something that lets them down or affects them in any way, like it, you see it. But the podcast is a lot different. It's people all over the world that I don't see and don't know. And I would just get messages where people would say, like, thank you for doing today's episode. It really made an impact. And what got me thinking is sometimes I don't want to do an episode. Like sometimes, I just want to mail it in and what, I don't have to do one this week. I've done, so many, like I can take a break. Like I started thinking about myself, but that was the one thing that I had drawn the line in the sand on when I started a couple of years ago, is that I'm not going to stop. So I would do it. And then those would always be the ones where people would message me, were like, hey, that really helped me today. I was in a really dark place. And
mm,
that saved me for today. And so I realized, okay, well, it's not about me. Like I have to do this because there's someone else. And so I started like connecting to that source energy of it's for them. And then I started thinking about how that applies to everything, because there's people that look at you that you never know. There's people that see you, they'll never talk to you, but they look at you, whether they see you now or this is going to be someone 3 or 4 years now that's going to be impacted by you. And your being is directly going to impact theirs. And the only thing that's really motivated me, like really motivated me, I do want, of course, material success. Like it's nice to have money, it's nice to have like that freedom and stuff. But I was never like wake out of bed motivated of like I got to go make $1 million today. Sure, $1 million is great, and I'm happy to make that if that's in the cards for me. But that was never like a motivating factor for me. But I found waking up and saying, like, I got to be the best me today because somebody could be the best them if they see me and I'm the best me. And that gets me going like every single day. And so now when I'm running on the treadmill, I'm like, I got to get in these dark places that I don't like. So that way I can have a conversation with somebody that's in a dark place. Their dark place might be different. Like their dark place might be, their life situation that they're in right now, or their family situation, or their work situation, but the feeling is the same. Like if you feel negative, it doesn't matter what's going on. That's how you feel. And so
mm,
I'm pushing that envelope for me so that I can understand, why would someone listen to me if I'm saying, hey, like, here's how you get through it, if I take the easy way out? That's just not the same lesson. So I'm going through that process. I'm not perfect at it. And it'll always be a process. I'll never be perfect at it like that because I'll just keep going further and further in it. But that's a motivating factor for me. And I think if everybody got on that plane, like, I mean, that goes into a whole other philosophy
right.
at that point, because nobody would need possessions or anything because we would all just serve each other so well that, we all would
Right.
have everything that we need. But it's got to start somewhere. And
Yep.
so that's kind of the start for it.
I love that so much. It's recognizing A, that we're here for other people, and B, you're a part of something much larger than you. So
Mhm.
if nothing else, reminding ourselves of that as we go throughout our day, or perhaps need to to remember the reason why we're here. I love all of that, Henry. So well stated, so brilliantly stated. Thank you so much. So in this in all of these wonderful conversations and everything, and the magic question that I love to ask people is, is there a particular item of clothing or accessory that you love, and how does it make you feel? Like what is that one piece?
Yeah, so I do work in health and fitness. I've been around health fitness, so generally my items of clothing are along workout clothes or things like that. And this is a bit of a splurge. It's one thing like that I splurge on and that I never did before, but it's the higher end fitness clothes.
Mm,
I guess it's activewear you would call it because it's not stuff I
yes,
actually work out in. But I have splurged a little bit on clothing. Like I would never spend like $80 on a shirt before
right,
in my life. Like that would blow my mind. And I know it may sound crazy for listening right now. I feel weird saying that, but I don't really spend money on anything like for myself. It's usually for my family, my kids, things like that.
right.
But I decided that I wanted to try it. I wanted to treat myself in something like this, and I feel so good in high-end fitness clothes. I don't know what it is, but they fit good, they feel good. You can move around, they're comfortable. There's a sense of just like relaxation in them, and
Mm.
I to the point where it's hard to get me out of them now. We went to dinner last night, and my wife was like, "You cannot wear that. You have to change." And I was like, "Oh, fine, fine, I'll change." But yeah, I would spend more now on like an athletic wear, like high end shirt
Right,
or shorts than I would a dress shirt. Like a dress shirt, I'm going to TJ Maxx, and I know you're the fashion person. I'm probably
right.
saying the wrong words, but $19. Let me get a dress shirt. But these, I've really liked them. I just feel so good wearing them. I feel comfortable. I feel like I'm just doing well in it. So that's one thing I really enjoy. And they're
Yeah.
usually sourced well. They usually pay the people that make them better, and things like that, which I enjoy. Like that's something I've really got into is like from the table where it's made, how well are we taking care of the people that are making it? And so
Yeah.
that's affected a lot of my buying decisions lately with that.
I love that. What a great answer because it's the investment in yourself that puts that smile on your face, right? I
Yeah.
love that. It's a perfect answer, especially because I know as you're explaining it, I can just feel your energy and how great it makes you feel.
Yeah.
So, Henry, you're so incredible and I do cherish our relationship. But if someone wanted to continue the conversation with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
The easiest way, whatever device you're listening on or what other service, if it's Spotify, iTunes, podcasting, just search the Positive Mindset Podcast. It's available on all those. It's audio only, so it's not on YouTube at this time. I'm keeping it exclusively on the podcast segment. So that's the easiest way. It's just the Positive Mindset Podcast. You'll see the logo. It's got a little happy face on there, and episodes every day of the week. So Monday through Friday, 10 to 12 minutes. Just to get you in that higher perspective. We do a little breathing on there, and it's generally a good time. I enjoy it, and I think most of the people that listen to it hopefully enjoy it too.
Yes, we do, because I'm a listener. So I will absolutely put that link in the show notes for you, Henry, and for everybody else who's listening. I thank you so much for your time and your wisdom today. It's brilliant. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.